perhaps one of the most spectacular political comebacks in history. Donald Trump, now president-elect of the United States. Trump, 47, will take office in January of 2025. But so many people are wondering, how did this happen after impeachments, 2 assassination attempts, a loss in 2020, yet the phoenix has risen from the ashes and Donald Trump will be president again. Hello, I'm Adrienne Batra. With me are Warren Kinsella and Brian Lilley. Brian, I want to start with you because there are a lot of questions now. How could this have happened? Some of us who don't suffer from Trump derangement syndrome understand how this happened. But not only is Donald Trump on course to have won the popular vote, the Republicans have won a majority in the Senate, and they're very much leading in most of the House seats where they will now have the presidency, they will have the House, they will have the Senate. So after years of persecution, prosecution, assassination attempts, Trump is president again. Mm-hmm. How?
It's the economy, stupid. Let's quote, James Carville from 1992. It's the economy, stupid. I wrote about this in a column, talked to a lot of people when I was down in Arizona. That was supposed to be a swing state. Trump won it handily. And they also sent a Democrat to the Senate, and they passed a state proposition legalizing abortion. So, people were looking, it wasn't that in swing states, they weren't saying, well, we're going to go all in on just Republicans. Some did, some didn't. But voters were able to say, okay, well, I want the Democrat here because this guy's good, Marine vet. And yes, we're going to support this, which will, annoy some within the Republican coalition. But they looked around and they said, on the economy, I'm voting Trump. I remember speaking to a woman named Ann down there who was concerned about Trump's position on reproductive rights. She is someone who listened to what the Democrats were saying about Trump and Project 2025, which was not his, and he had denounced it, but the messaging worked with her to where she had concerns. But she told me, at the end of the day, my family is not doing well. We've been struggling the last several years. And that's why places like Phoenix, Maricopa County, which went for Trump in 2016, then Biden in 2020, flipped back. It came down to the question that Reagan put to people in 1980. Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? And they looked around and they said, I was better off, when the other guy was in office. We're going back to Trump. That was the main issue. There's other things. There were failures in the Democratic campaign. Trump had a much more organized campaign. I mean, he won the popular vote. That's incredible. 44% of the state of New York voted for Donald Trump, including right in the boroughs. California, he won places like Riverside County. You remember he went to Coachella and we were all wondering why. Part of that was down ballot, but that's where he was able to drive up vote, win counties he normally wouldn't, and win the popular vote, which was the biggest shock to me. I was right on with the numbers in terms of how many electoral college votes he would get, but I did not think he'd win the popular vote.
Well, even at time of taping, there are still outstanding states, some of the swing states that have not yet come in, but Trump is leading in all of them. So it's possible that his electoral college number is yet to go up. But Warren, back in 2016, you helped volunteer on the Hillary Clinton campaign. You have been on the ground on both sides of the border. There was a massive expectation. I think 98% were expecting that Hillary Clinton was going to win in 2016. Fast forward to 2024. You had this bizarre switcheroo in the Democratic Party. Kamala Harris only had 110 days to reintroduce herself to the American people. There is an extraordinary amount of finger pointing and infighting happening right now in the Democratic Party. So I want to hear from your perspective. What went just so spectacularly wrong for the Democrats in this instance? Because as you look at the turnout, Donald Trump increased his numbers with women, with men, with young people aged 18 to 29, with Black and Hispanics. His numbers all went up in this election. Whereas Vice President Kamala Harris's numbers compared to Joe Biden in 2020, she did not outperform him in any district in the country. So, Warren, what happened?
I agree with, I think you've given the answers in your question, and full disclosure, did volunteer for her, albeit as a foreign national, and I was happy to do so because I think she was a better candidate. She was capable and smart. She had tons of money. She had an organized team. That makes her loss all the worse. Why did she lose? And I'll give a simpler answer than Brian. It's three things to me. Number one, I think it's going to be a long, 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 long time before the Democratic Party of the United States nominates a woman as their presidential candidate again. I'm sorry. I'm not saying everybody's sexist in the U.S. I'm just saying enough people are. They just can't picture a woman as president. That's number one. Number two, Joe Biden. Joe Biden, who I also volunteered for 4 years ago, held on too long. He did not give her enough time. It is amazing when you think of it. She put together a campaign. She raised over $1 billion. She united the Democratic Party. She did that all in 100 days, but she needed more time. And I think, Adrienne, you had said a couple months ago, her going through the primaries would have been useful for her because it would have introduced her to the American people. And I agree with that. And the third thing, obviously, is the economy. Americans are not stupid. I know there's a lot of people running around on Twitter this morning saying that still. They're not. They know that Donald Trump's not a nice guy. They know that he says things that are stupid and cruel, but they wanted somebody that would represent their interests on the economy. And the problem she had is she was associated with the worst economic performance of an incumbent U.S. government in many years. And she could not shake that. She had a great team, lots of money, but it wasn't enough. Those are my three main reasons.
Well, Brian, unsurprising, because it happens here too. When on the losing side of the aisle, then you suddenly see all sorts of media reports that tell you anonymous source said this, insider Democrat said this. Well, one prominent Democrat has just openly said, how do you spend $1 billion and still lose? What the actual F? And I think that there's a lot of Democrats wondering, how did that happen? I think Warren spoke to part of the challenges. Biden should have announced, likely at the midterms in 2022, when the Democrats did a hell of a lot better than most people expected, perhaps Biden should have said, okay, now's my time to say, I am not going to run in 24. She's my vice president. All the money that's already been raised goes to her anyway. She has had 4 years on the job, likely the best on the job training to be president as a VP.
Yeah.
A lot of criticism against her that she didn't come prepared. She didn't read her files. Personality issues. She lost a lot of staff, all of those things. But let's talk a bit more philosophically with the Democratic Party. She could have chosen the governor, extraordinarily popular governor of Pennsylvania, to be her nominee. Tim Walz, of governor of Minnesota, proved to be quite useless on the ticket. In fact, Donald Trump won in his district.
He lost his state.
Yeah. I just sort of putting a finer point on that aspect of the choices that she made. Was it her choices? Was it Obama people making the choices for her? I mean, put some context to this.
Well, I think that Biden should have been stepped aside a while ago. I think Gavin Newsom should have gone. Last night, CNN was quoting anonymous Biden camp people saying, hey, twice now, the party apparatus has shoved Joe Biden aside for a candidate that would be more dynamic, and both of those candidates lost. But she did a good job of recovering, because by the time Biden did step away, voters were leaving the Democrats in droves. They just didn't think Biden had it in him anymore. They were going to lose places like Virginia to Donald Trump. So she brought that back. But why was she still not able to beat Trump? As I've said earlier, it's the economy. But what did she choose to do instead? She chose to double down on abortion. She went very hard on abortion. Well, politics is about addition, not subtraction. And what you have to be doing is looking around and saying, what can I do to add to my coalition? If abortion and access to abortion is your number one issue, you're already voting for Kamala Harris. So you don't need to go all in and super hard on that. You don't need to have an abortion truck outside the DNC grossing people out. So she needed to be talking about the economy, but she was hampered by her association with Biden. The fact that, a couple of years ago, they decided to name Biden's economic plan as Bidenomics. They did that branding. Well, that worked for Ronald Reagan and Reaganomics because the economy was booming. Doesn't matter what the OECD studies say, people don't feel like the economy's doing well. So she was hampered by Bidenomics.
Adrienne, if I can just, I totally disagree with Brian on the abortion piece. She needed to bring back women, particularly young women, and abortion did it. Abortion's been working since they got rid of Roe. It worked in the midterms. If you look at all the constitutional initiatives,
but going harder,
just wait. In the votes that took place this week, all of the constitutional initiatives, except for the one in Florida, succeeded. So abortion did work for her, but she was hampered, like you sort of have said, on economy because people associated bad economy with the administration of what she was part.
Right,
abortion, but Warren.
But doesn't that say, Warren, based on where we've seen Donald Trump's increase in vote with women in particular, and all demographics of women, including Black women, Hispanic women, that women care more about the cost of their groceries than they're more concerned about the cost of their groceries than they are about these other issues, which is now back at the state level, and they're voting on it. And I think Brian, let's bring you back in here, because I feel not only was it the issue of the economy, the cost of eggs, the groceries, things that women are dealing with every day, because they are the spenders in the house and take care of the household, and that's not an antiquated notion; it's a fact. Then they are thinking more broadly about abortion, frankly.
So this is why I think that Harris, she had those people. Sure, she could have motivated them. But when your two biggest issues that you're pushing the most are one, so it was abortion and Trump is a threat to democracy. Anybody that has that as their motivating issue is voting for you. Do you need to motivate them to get them out? Do you need to convince them? Yes, but you need to give them an answer on their biggest issue, the economy. And then another driving factor down in the US was immigration. Yeah. Donald Trump went hard on immigration. He won the majority of Hispanic male voters. She didn't have an answer on immigration. She didn't have an answer on the economy. And, on immigration, the Democrats have to stop patting people on the head and telling them that you're making it up or that you're racist or implying these things. It's a real issue. And Trump played well on people's fears, but those fears are not without grounding.
Warren, there are going to be so many deep dives done on this election. There's going to be a lot of autopsies internally with the Democrats to figure out what to do next. How did we get here? Does this, they always sort of look at the Clintons and the Obamas as the stalwarts and the grand poobahs of the Democratic Party. Are they still? Do they still have to? Who? Nancy Pelosi is no longer going to be in the House. She is ostensibly responsible for putting the knife in Joe Biden and getting him out of the race. So who is it now? Who are they looking to? They've got a decent bench. Hakeem Jeffries, Gavin Newsom. They've got some people that are still leaders in the Democratic Party, but they're gonna be on the wilderness for a while now.
Yeah, for 2 years. I think, it's not, I keep saying to people, don't panic about Trump for 4 years. It's 2 years because the pendulum always swings back at the midterms. So they will be back at the midterms. And like this map for the Senate race was the worst for the Democrats in the history of the United States. They were not going to take the Senate. And, some people are not even calling the House yet, but I agree with you. I think the Republicans should take the House. So it's 2 years. Buckle your seatbelts. It's going to get bumpy. Trump has got a mandate to be Donald Trump. And he is going to do and say crazy and stupid things. And one of the things that's going to happen is he's going to say some stuff that is probably injurious to Canada, but we can talk about that separately. I think it's going to get a bit nutty. So, people should get ready because Donald Trump, what he says, he means it.
Well, Brian, Donald Trump has been saying what he says. Some could call it nutty, as Warren has, and some will say it's aggressive, some will say it's over the top, but he hasn't been shy about telegraphing to the world exactly what he wants to do, exactly what he's going to do. And still, there are a majority of Americans that cast their ballot said, yes, that's what we want, because we are worried about the border. We are worried about the economy. We are worried about crime. We are worried about our family. We are worried about the future of our country. And this is not a colored person versus white person thing anymore. What Donald Trump's support shows is that those concerns and fears and anxieties about their country crosses all swaths of the American society, regardless of what sort of subsection Democrats want to put you in. And people know what is coming, and he's going to do what he had committed to the American people to do. He said it on election night, on his victory night: promises made, promises kept.
Well, you talk about growing his coalition, as you pointed out, increased with Hispanic voters, increased with Black voters. Some suspect that Kamala Harris didn't pick Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania as her running mate because she was worried about offending voters in Michigan who would be voting on the issue of the Middle East and didn't want a Jewish running mate. There may be some truth to that. I don't know. But if that's why they did it, it was the wrong move, because in the end, Trump got the endorsement of an awful lot of Arab and Muslim leaders in Michigan. In fact, I was talking with someone who was at one of his rallies, and they said, we had Orthodox rabbis and imams on stage together endorsing Donald Trump just outside Detroit. So that strategy backfired, and Trump was able to increase his vote percentage with an awful lot of communities that didn't vote for him before. And I mentioned before, Riverside County is an example. That's where he went to the rally in Coachella. Normally a bit more Republican than the northern part of the state, but why did he win? It's not the rich people hoping for the tax cut. It is the people living out in Indio who are busting their hump day in and day out, who just don't feel like the economy's been working for them. And you multiply that across the United States, and that's why he's going to be the 47th president.
Warren, last comments to you with respect to this. There's a Democratic congressman out of California, Ro Khanna. He said that we as the Democratic Party have just lost touch. We have lost touch with the working class. We've lost touch with the people that have helped support our party over, many decades. Is there some truth to that? Because on the economy piece, where Bidenomics, they can tout some successes, but the American citizens weren't feeling it. Kamala Harris goes on the few interviews that she did and is asked a very pointed question: what would you have done differently than Biden? She says, nothing comes to mind. Those things stick in people's minds. And because of Joe Biden's unpopularity, that hurt her. So is that assessment accurate? Has the Democratic Party simply lost touch with what is truly happening on the ground with Americans?
You're absolutely right. It's always true on both sides of the border. Bill Clinton was a Rhodes Scholar, but he sure didn't talk about it. He would jog to McDonald's to have a Big Mac, and Barack Obama was the editor of the Law School Review at an Ivy League school. But he wouldn't talk about that. He'd talk about being a community organizer in Chicago. And up here, Mel Lastman and Ralph Klein and Jean Chrétien and Stephen Harper taking his son to hockey practice. The politicians who succeed are the ones who take the elitism stuff and they hide it away in the closet. They don't show it to people, because what it says to people is, you don't understand my life. I don't think that was the case for Kamala Harris at all. She was raised by a single mom, a lot of the time in Montreal, by the way. I think she was a good and decent person and cared about other people. But I don't think people believed her party cared about them. And this is a problem that's occurred now for the Liberal Party of Canada up here. When you lose touch with the people will punish you. And that's what happened on Tuesday night.
Well, it will remain to be one of the most extraordinary political comebacks in our lifetimes. Donald J. Trump, the 47th president of the United States. Well, let us know what you think in the comments below. Like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and go to thetorontosun.com to find commentary and coverage there you will not find anywhere else.